Inspiring connection. Restore. Renew. Reconnect. Live. Laugh. In love. Connections. Dreams. Getaway experiences. Brave Heart Workshops. Unique Getaways live with Jill Reynolds.
The Connection Show. Renew, restore, and reconnecting community. Sponsored by Braveheart Workshops live with Jill Reynolds. And joining me today is Mike Fabber, who I've just recently met. Mike, hi, welcome to the show. And I forgot to ask you, do you go by Mike or Michael?
Either one. I've been called worse. Thank you so much for having me. Huge fan. Love what you do with the show and what you're about. So I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, Michael, where are you located?
The great state of Delaware, the only state that ends in where.
Where? Okay. Kind of like I was from Illinois, and everybody would say Illinois, and I'd say there's no noise in Illinois.
Nice. Never heard that.
Yeah. Well, I'd love for the audience to know a little bit about you. Michael Fabber is the founder and CEO of Unleash Now. He created a 6+ figure business in 4 months with no ad spending and no email lists. Michael is the king of organic leads and sales. In addition to courses and programs, Michael and his fearless team host conferences internationally. Unleash Now is the perfect mix of conference and networking. Not only will you get tools to use and information to absorb, but the motivation to live your best life. Connect with like-minded people that will be part of your journey. The combination of connecting with others and listening to expert speakers will destroy any shackles holding you back. For all those that want to live their best life and change the world, come be unleashed. Michael's also the executive director of the Joseph Patrick Fabber Memorial Foundation, with a mission to prevent suicide, anti-drugs, and anti-bullying. He is a high-performance success coach, author, entrepreneur, speaker, and the owner of several businesses. So it is just a pleasure to meet with you, and just such a pleasure that you took time to come out and be on the show today. So what I'd love the audience to know, Michael, is take us on that journey of growing up. I know your mother is in the wellness industry, so take us on that journey growing up, and then how it led you to where you're at today.
Ooh. First, you definitely tell I didn't write that bio. My bio would be like, "Hi, I'm Michael Fabber. Let's talk." You made me. At first, if you didn't say my name, I wouldn't know who you were talking about. Thank you for such kind words. But so the journey to be where I am now is a journey about a lot of mistakes and mess ups. Really, it wasn't that I had to have a hard life. I was so silly and so I would say not smart that I chose to have a hard life, which is weird now that I look back at it and I go, why would I do that? But at the time, I don't understand what I was doing, but as I got older, I learned that my life worked for me. So it was interesting. My father's hardcore military. My mother is like hardcore mental health. Interesting combination, right? So it was polar opposites in the house, right? And I was born deaf without the ability to hear. I didn't get the ability to hear until I was 3, almost 4 years old. So I didn't learn how to talk until I was almost 5, but no excuses in my household. We were starting school. So I didn't know how to really talk or communicate with words. So it was a process. I failed 3rd grade. In middle school, they said they brought my parents in and told them to teach me out of school and teach me a trade because there was no chance I'd be successful at anything else. In high school, I was voted most likely to be dead or in jail by 21. So I didn't know most yearbooks had that award, but ours did. So it wasn't a path where it was just like, this is what I'm going to do. Like a lot of people are like born entrepreneurs. I was a born hustler. All right. Like when I was a kid, I would walk around like 5, 6, 7. I'd walk around the streets and find change. Originally from New York City and lived in Pennsylvania and Virginia before here. And I would find change. And I'd walk to the corner store and I'd get penny candy because I'm old enough where we actually had penny candy. And I would buy as much penny candy as I found change. And I would go back to my building and I would sell it for 5 cents a piece. Right? I don't make that kind of profit on anything now, but but it was that's why I would do it all day long until I had enough to buy a pack of baseball cards, and then I would eat the bubble gum because I wasn't smart enough to chew it, and I would sell the baseball cards, and I would just keep doing that all day long, and I would get like 20 to 30, 40, $50 in a day, depending on how the day was. And I would just do that every day. Like I was just hustling. I was like, oh no, I can do. And it was always seeing angles. I used to, I got a cup and a bongo, and I would go next to this piano player because my mom and dad had a bar and restaurant, and they had a piano player, Bob the keyboard player, Friday nights. And this dude was awesome. He'd like end the night with like, God Bless America. Well, every night, like, it was just like, it was just a different life, right? It was such small community, small, even though it was a bigger area, it was small identity, right, in that area. And I would go and get my bongo and I would play next to him, and I couldn't keep a beat, save my life, like I still can. And people would fill my cup up with tip money. But one of my greatest hustles I ever did, my dad gave me a thing of roses, like a big container of roses, and I was supposed to walk around the restaurant and bar all night and hand them to women. It was on Valentine's Day. I was handed to the woman that was there. And he was like, just hand it to the woman and just keep going, right? I'm like, all right. So I would hand it to the woman and I would just do this to the guy or who they were with. And they would put money in my hand. And I made hundreds of dollars that night.
Well, Michael, just to pause for a moment, I'm 66, so I'm from the hippie generation of the 70s. And so I hitchhiked around the United States for at least a year and a half. And I ended up in Scottsdale, Tempe, Arizona, and met a girl, and her and I hitchhiked from Arizona to Portland, Oregon. And both of us, along the way, when we would hitchhike, we'd stop in, at local bars or whatever, and we'd put our quarter on the pool table and see if some guys would want to play pool with us. And we would start and act as though we had no idea. And we would say, oh, we'll bet you like $5 to see who wins. We don't really know how to play. And we'd wipe out the table and we'd hustle them in pool.
I love it.
And that would give us enough money to buy our box of mac and cheese for dinner for the night.
I love it. My aunt did a similar thing. She hitchhiked for like 2 years, just all around the United States.
Yeah.
I did a much shorter time.
Yeah, I always tell people I didn't go to college. I went to the School of Hard Knocks.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
the best school out there.
Yeah, my education is the streets.
Then right, 100%. I'm with you. I said the same thing.
So take us on that journey of hustling then. And so what's the next phase of the story? So
all right. So what happened was I became a punk. Mm-hmm. And why I did, now I understand it more now. My brother's one of the 22-year day that served the country that took his own life. And the foundation you named is named in his honor.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, and I'm blessed that you've got a foundation for him.
Right. It's now his story, his life impacts so many people. So the ending wasn't the ending. Mm-hmm. So it was just part of the journey. But as a young man growing up, as a kid growing up in the area I grew up, and what I saw and how I digested what I saw was that men couldn't be upset. We couldn't be hurt. So unmanly. All right. So you had to do the manly thing. And it was rage, right? Like it was beyond belief anger. At the time, I believe that was manly. Now I just believe it's silly. Right. So I couldn't express my pain. So I wanted people to feel it. So I became that punk. I got in and out of trouble until I was 20 years old. Right. My father dies when I'm a teenager, more upset, show more anger. I dare my buddy to take a car. He takes the car. Later that night, gets in an accident and passes away. Mm-hmm. Guilt, upset, right? Broken heart, more pushing it down. So it's just different things of that nature and different losses and at that same time, I'm getting in a lot of trouble, right? Like in and out of court, juvie, community service, and then 18 years old, court, jail, a lot of court. And then I'm 20 years old and I'm facing like 20 plus years in prison. And I found out I'm having a daughter. right? I say this was like the trifecta because I guess life was sending me signs, right? Like we can talk about. I'm not going to debate belief here. I never do, right? Like you can call it God, universe, trees, cosmic winds, dirt. Like I don't care what you call it, right? That's not my place. It's my place is that's a belief, right? And I believe whatever that was, life was sending me. I missed so many signs before that I was going down a slippery slope. That this was the last before it was going to go all to crap if I didn't listen, right? And so I'm in court. I find out I'm having a daughter. The charges get dropped, right? And it was just after I lost my pops. So the charges get dropped, dismissed. 2.5 years I'm in court. Charges get dismissed. My buddies that are there, they're all celebrating, like tap me in the back of the head, like, yeah, like we're hugging it out. And I go to find my mom because my mom's an angel, right? And literally I put my mom through so much. I have no idea why she still talks to me, nonetheless loves me, right? And so I go to find my mom. So I was like, we won, right? And she's on the ground crying. And I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, Ma, you didn't hear him, right? Like we won. And she looked at me and goes, till when? Like, till when? When's the next time we'll be here? Right? Because we've been here so much, right? And that was very eye-opening to me of the stress and problems I was causing everyone around me, but also how I was living my life.
Yep.
Was that it wasn't excitement that we were free. It was, oh man, till next time. Right? It was to be continued almost. And so I realized I didn't want my daughter to visit me in jail, and I didn't want her not to learn about me because I was dead, right? Because of the life I was leading. So she's literally, my daughter saved my life and became my life in a heartbeat.
I want you to know mine did too. My son
nice.
did. My son did too.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
I knew we were I stalked you, just so you know.
Yeah. Mine is exactly the same. I'm a 38-year recovered cocaine alcoholic addict, and I had a spiritual awakening, found God, and started to get in recovery. And one night somebody calls me up and that I knew a little bit of and told me he had some great cocaine and asked if he could come over. And I said, I'm not doing coke anymore and I'm not sleeping around. And he says, why? And I says, because I found God. So of course I listened to him saying he wanted to come over and learn about God. So I let him come over, and 5 minutes later he poured out a vial of coke. I got high. He told me he had a vasectomy, had sex with him, and 4 weeks later I was pregnant with my son. Best night of relapse I could have ever had. It changed the trajectory of my entire life.
I love that.
So let's go on with yours, awesome. But I wanted you to know I get it.
No, that's awesome. I love that. It's so powerful. And listen, like what we sometimes label as mistakes, the greatest gifts.
Yeah, I don't ever look at it as a mistake. And I too, by the way, growing up in high school, freshman year in high school, I cut classes probably 80% of the time and partied all day. And so after freshman year, the high school I went to, which was Elk Grove High School in Elk Grove Village, Illinois, they were doing a pilot program. This was in 1968, Michael. They did a pilot program for troubled kids. And they interviewed the worst 10 girls that were getting into trouble to ask if we would be willing to be put in special classrooms with specific teachers. Well, that protocol for the next 3 years, sophomore, junior, senior year, 9 of the 10 girls graduated. I graduated a half a year early, finishing all my coursework after flunking out freshman year. But so my accolades are that I was one of the top 10 worst freshman girls, and my life turned around.
That's amazing. I love that. We are like kindred spirits.
Well, and one more story, and then I want to go back to yours.
I love it.
As I raised my son growing up, and about 17-ish, he's out with his buds playing sand volleyball, and they've got my car. On the way back from sand volleyball, one of his buds says to him, hey, that house has the garage door open with a refrigerator. Stop and I'll see if they got any brewskis. So my son listens, stops the car, the homeowner comes out, chases them down the street, gets my license plates, calls the police. My son gets arrested for felony trespassing charges, which got reduced to misdemeanor trespassing. And he had a year of probation, and his probation officer said she liked him so much and loved how I was raising him as a strong, Christ-centered single mom. So she put in his name in an organization in Chicago called Project Lifeline, and it's a non-for-profit that raises money for troubled youth to go to college. And their predominant population is urban life in Chicago with black youth. But they were finding that a lot of the black youth weren't graduating, and so their funding was being dried up because they weren't completing college. So they had to reach out to the suburban white population to see if they could balance off their funding. So they offered my son a $25,000 scholarship to go to college, and the end of the story you will love. So as over the years, as I would be talking, and I says, yeah, my son was able to get a $25,000 scholarship. And of course, the atypical population will say, oh, was it in sports? Was it in academics? I said, nope, it was for stealing a beer. It was the best crime he could have committed. Anyway,
That's awesome.
Transition back to you. So you
Sometimes cry does pay.
Yep. So you're handed this gift from whatever your higher power was.
Right.
You're dismissed your charges. Your mom still feels somewhat hopeless. I want to say somewhat hopeless. That what direction will you go? So now take us the next step.
So now I decide I'm going to pack my bags up. I'm going to move to Delaware. Right? Because I said in my mind, if I can't not get in trouble in Delaware, like if I get in trouble in Delaware, because I knew nothing about Delaware, didn't know anyone here. I said, if I can get in trouble in Delaware, I can't go anywhere. It's me. Yeah. Right? So I got a fresh start in a fresh environment, surroundings in Delaware. And good news, never got in trouble in Delaware. But I opened a beach bar and grill and got into the business world. So the first part of my life I always refer to as the villain part. I was the villain of my story, right? I was causing a lot of stress for myself, for the people I care about, and people I came in contact with that I felt like that should feel my pain and rage. The problem is the whole time I was going through all that, I was pushing it down. I was never dealing with it. So it was all still dormant in me. It was all still subconscious thoughts. The feelings were all still there. I just didn't go through them to grow through them, right? Like it's still, and I didn't understand that, even though like later in life, my studies became neuroscience and human behavior, which should tell me that all that is still here, right? But I mean, not me. That's ever for everybody else, right? So I become the next part, and the next part of my life I like to call the fakest part, right? I became extremely fake. And I labeled this section as the damsel in distress, right? Because every story has the three characters. And what we don't realize is that we played these three characters in our life, right? So I was waiting for someone to save me, to someone show me life. I didn't know what life was about. So I was trying to build the biggest bank account. Like anybody would care about my bank account, right? Like no one ever has asked me about my bank account, right? Like no client is ever like, I'll work with you if you show me your bank account. It's a number I accept, right? Like no one's ever done that. Because no one cares. They don't care what yours is. They care how you can help them, how you make them feel, how you can impact their life. Right? Well, I didn't get that. So I went on this like business journey. I had the sports bar and grill. I had a landscape company. I had a project management company. I had a catering company. Right? I had all the public service, service industry. And I thought like I was living the life. I was making a bunch of money. I got the big house. I had a 3,500 square foot home. I had the Cadillac Escalade, brand new. Right? It was white. I called it Cane because I had the same habit as you did for a while, and I wasn't anymore. So I said I gave up one to get the other, and it was like, let's make a good joke about me. I had the spinning rims on it, so if I stopped, the rims would spin and look like I was going, scare the hell out of all the drivers. And when I would go, they would stop, and it looked like I was gliding, which would freak out the drivers. I had all tinted windows. I had 6 12-inch subwoofers in the back because I love loud music and driving uncomfortably because that's what it caused. Right, but I thought it was cool. That's not even the worst part. The worst part was I wore like 10 velour Converse suits, and I would wear one of those suits every day with matching Timberlands and a matching Kango hat. I was like the poster boy to be made fun of, and none of my friends told me. Like, no one ever told me I look ridiculous. I was like, what friends did I have? I was the most ridiculous looking person every day, and no one told me. Right? Like, it was horrible. So,
You probably were turning them onto the cocaine so they didn't care.
they weren't with me for my
free
outfit.
cocaine for everyone.
Oh yeah, they were not with me for my outfit. I promise, or my fashion style. I promise.
Only another cocaine addict will relate to that joke.
They were 100%, 100%. So I was living this fake life, but didn't know it was fake, right? And in my mind, what I thought I was like, I was a man's man. I was a great dude. I was a great friend. I was what the world needed, right? This is what we need us to be like. And I'm hitting fake golf balls in my yard. A couple things about me. I don't like golf. I'm not good at it. Drives me crazy. I don't even know why I play it, other than a bunch of people I know play it, and I try to make business deals on the golf course. Right? But other than that, it's more 90% infuriating to me, 10% enjoyable. So I'm hitting fake golf balls in my yard. I say that's the epitome of fake. And one of my best friends called me, named Matt Carter. Calls me and says, I had to fight my wife. I'm going through it. I'm like, oh, come on, man. Yeah, you had a fight with your wife before. You'll get through it. It's fine. Just go back home. He's like, yeah, no, I really think like, this or that, or meet up or have a beer. And I'm like, dude, just go home. And like, it'll be fine, right? But I'm not fully paying attention to what he's saying and how he's saying it. I'm hitting fake golf balls in my yard. That's so much more important than whatever he's going through. The next day I find out he took his own life. Mm-hmm. That was the day my reality shattered, right? That fake reality I was in, right? That reality I created was gone. And I fell back into some drug use and alcohol. And then I thought about taking my own life. And I sat on the beach and had a gun in my mouth, messed up my teeth from it. And a picture of my daughter was in my wallet, somehow got out and fell on the ground on the beach in front of me. And that's that picture. That's why I always say, like, she saved my life and became my life, because she saved my life multiple times. She just didn't know it. Made it where I couldn't do it, right? It was like the most selfish act. I couldn't say no one cared about me because I know my daughter did. All right, so the things I was saying I knew were lies. Just like I knew all those times where I was saying I was a man's man, I was the best friend you could have, and all those things were lies. And I kind of disappeared for a little while, did a little hitchhiking. I had a missing person report out for me. But I met really cool people along the way, some. Awesome stories. That's why when you were telling the story, I love stories. I think story is the greatest art form there is. And that's why we use it in so many different art forms. And I realized that it was something interesting. I went to find me, right? Like I was hiding behind a rock or something, or like behind a tree. I just couldn't find me. Where was I? And what I realized, like,
where's Waldo?
Yeah, like, where is this dude? I know I'm here somewhere. And what I learned was that the punk, I created him, because that's how I got through that moment. That's how I protected myself, right? And then I made that businessman because that's how I protected myself. And now when everything shattered, all that stuff I held down came out. And that's why the crash was such a bad scene, was because I wasn't just crashing from the one incident. I was crashing from all the incidents I tried to hold down inside that were coming up now. And then I figured out no one was going to save me. I had to save myself. There are people that could help me. One guy called it your guides. You can have guides. Like, you have a bunch of guides. But you have to be the hero of your story. You have to do the work. You have to take the action. Like, you got to do it. And I realized that if I could make those and create those people that I could create who I wanted to be. Right? Like, what was my legacy? What was I really about? What was my purpose on this earth? Right? And I don't think God is sitting there, or whatever we call it, that God's sitting there and going, hey, you're going to have a good life. Mike, it's going to suck, bro. Sorry. Right? Like, I don't think that's the kind of God we have, or higher power, or belief. Mm-hmm. I think they're saying, listen, everybody can have a great life. Everybody could be the best version. Like, everybody could do amazing things. Everybody has a masterpiece. Just what it is different. Right? And the street sweeper is creating a masterpiece. He's painting a clean environment and community for people to be able to play, for kids to be able to play, for families to be able to walk, right? For people to be able to live. They're creating that masterpiece out there right now, right? And that's their masterpiece. That's their contribution to Earth. right? And we all have one. And our gift of life, right, because this is a gift, is meant to be given, because gifts are meant to be given.
Mm-hmm.
So it was realizing that, and then thinking that, oh, you got it, it's all fine and clear. Then no, like life still happens, right? So it was then working through that, figuring out my purpose, like figuring out what I wanted to be, where my passions were, how my skill set could help people, right? And that is, it was a winding, walking road. And I went through basketball coaching, which I still do some of, and I realized I loved impacting people, right? I loved showing people their current, Trent Shelton's quote, their current situation isn't their final destination. I love that line. And I got into mental health for a little while, but I was like, you know what? Mental health is great, deals with a lot of the past stuff, and that's cool. But I want to be the bridge to the future, right? And that's when I dove out into the coaching, but more strategizing world of no longer can you get through and grow through everything you've been through, but also that doesn't dictate where you can go, and you can go anywhere you want. You want to be it, you just got to be willing to put in the work for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love that, and one of my favorite slogans. I'm a former 38-year AA lady,
Love
and
it.
is fake it till you make it. So I love it. I love how you were saying the fake life, and so it's okay to have that fake life, but you fake it till you make it, and you overcome. And I have one therapist over the years. I've had many, but one who said to me one time, she said, Jill, you have more resiliency than anyone I've ever met in my entire life. If 10% of my client base had your resiliency, I'd be out of business. And it sounds to you, you are another resilient man, and that resiliency has brought you into fruition. And so I love your story. So share with us now in this final 10-15 minutes here of Unleash. So when did Unleash come into fruition? And tell us a little bit about that so the audience knows.
Nice. So Unleash You Now came to be a couple years back. So originally when 2011 happened, that's when my boy passed away. When I came back, I was CMF, Coach Mike Fabber. And I did that for years, 6. And at some point I realized this isn't about me. I'm like, this isn't about me, and I don't want to make it about me. So take my name out of this. And they're like, what, you want to just call it Coach? And I'm like, no. Right? Like, one, I think of purses, and two, it's very, I don't know what that means, right? So I'm like, no, I want it to be our purpose. What's our purpose? Like, why would someone care about talking to us, right? So Unleash You Now came to be 2017 really was when it was created, and it stands for 2 parts, right? So first, it's the unleashed, right? Unleash you. So society, culture, family traditions, the world tells us we need to be, the media tells us we need to be, right? The magazines tells us we need to be. It's break from all of that, right? Take off all these shackles and chains and all the things that we use to hold ourselves back. Tackle our own self-talk, right? Our ants, our automatic negative thoughts. Let's really go into breaking down the things that are holding us back from living the life we want, we desire, and we dream of. So first thing is unleashing ourselves. And we can do that through different mental exercises, mindset, right? I say mindset's the ignition. Without it, it doesn't start well. But with it, you have a chance to start. And it's to work mindset in there and then skill set. So most people believe psychology, right? Your mindset is 80 to 99% success comes from your psychology, right? It's 20 to 1% skill work and mastering skill, right? So for us, it was let's create the conferences that I say any conference, not just ours. Every conference I've been to, when I stepped into that room, my life changed. Right? Like I'll tell you a quick story. I'll try not to take too long. So this all just happens. 2011 just happened. I really don't know what I'm trying to do, what I want to do. I'm really trying not to even at then, I was trying not to let people see my pain. And my buddy's like, hey, I got you a ticket to this conference. And I'm like, yeah, right, man. I'm not going to any of that crap, right? That fluff, everything's great. Everything's great. Like, no offense, I'm not going. And they're like, dude, I got you a ticket. Like, I bought you a ticket. Don't be a dick. Like, take the gift. All right. Like, I feel like you need this stuff. And I'm like, oh, you feel like I need this, right? Like, I don't need to go hold a candle with you and make all those weird noises that you make. right? Like I didn't even know what it was about. I'm just making stuff up, right? Just being a hater. And so finally ends up, I go to this conference with these 3 other dudes. And I go, and I'm the guy in the conference now that I look for when I go to speak, and I'm speaking to them, right? Because everybody there mostly is accepting they're there, welcoming the transformation, welcoming the change, welcoming the information. I was the guy like this, arms crossed, my face didn't change, right? Like I didn't jump when they jumped, I didn't dance when they danced, I didn't do the little workout, like the workout sessions, right? Like they were like, stand, sit on the ground, up. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. Like, this is all weird stuff, right? And night goes on. At the end of the night, we're leaving. They're like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, I'm going to implement this in my life, and this changed my life, and this was so much fun. I'm not saying a word. I'm like, dumb, right? I'm not saying a word, right? I'm listening to music. I'm doing anything I can not to have a conversation with any of them about it. They drop me off at my place. I go inside. I go into my room, and I just start crying, right? I just start crying a little bit. And it's like so many things that's when I started becoming a personal development, personal growth junkie, right? Like I say, we're all addicts, right? Like this is one thing I really fight against. We're all addicts, right? Because so people will try to use the term an addict and make it like it's a certain group and they're all negative. And I was like, everybody's an addict. What's your drug of choice? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, is it being negative, right? Like, is it blaming, right? Like, is it alcohol? Is it food, right? Like, what kind of food, right? Like, is it sports? Is it physical activity? There are some people that are extremely addicted to physical activity.
Well, I'm glad you said that comment because back in the 90s, Michael, their insurance used to cover you for codependency treatment centers. Mm-hmm. And I was blessed to be able to go to a codependency treatment center for a month and work on codependency. And, people look at that word codependency and they think about it, codependency as I'm codependent to another person. My definition of codependency is when we allow people, places, or things to become more important than ourselves that we lose our identity. And so it's so easy to relate to when we're codependent of another human being. But what about, are you codependent to your job, to churches, to whatever, a place? What about, are you codependent to drugs, sex, alcohol, gambling, busyness, money, shopping? What is it that you put so high regard to that you've lost your own identity? Because if you don't break that down, and if you do not look at what you're codependent of, that becomes your God, and then you've lost self. You've lost self.
I love that. That's deep.
Yeah,
and I like that. But it's so true. Like we're putting stock into something. Mm-hmm. We all are. We're all putting stock into something. And I said that's when my drug of choice became personal development and personal growth. It was that to serve better, I need to be better. To love better, I need to be better. I need to love myself more, right? Like to do anything I wanted to the outside world, my cup had to runneth over, so it's spill, right? And whatever my cup is running over, it's spilling. So if my cup is running over of negativity, it's spilling out of me. If my cup is running over of BS is running out of me, right? So that's when it became where I was just like, I am all in. Like I did every conference I could get to. I did, right? And like I was foolish at the beginning. Like I took I did like the 4 $2,500 credit cards to like go to my first mastermind, to be in my first mastermind group, right? Like I did stupid things that I would recommend not doing, but it was so important to me to get around that, to be around that, to experience it, to soak it in, right? Like I wanted to be immersed in this society, in this environment, in this culture, to see the different things that I needed to do and grow. And then by doing that, I felt all the feels that I was hiding, right? And I grew that. I stopped saying it happened to me and for me, right? Like, and it was like all these great things were happening and transpiring. These like all the weights that I held on me and all the chains, and I had to be this in my life because this is how my family was. I had to be this in my life because this is the kind of people I grew up with. I had to be that, and it all just started falling off. And how relieving it was, and how like it was so fresh. It was like life started over for me.
Well, there is one. I'm so glad you just said that again. You're like, I love this transition. So, one thing that you and I will talk off screen about, and since you're a knowledge junkie, I want to turn you on to a terminology called legacy burdens, and see how those legacy burdens of mom, dad, the legacy,
Mm.
had come
Sound
in,
right.
and how you broke those legacy burdens and shifted, not broke them, but shifted them. So go ahead. We'll talk about legacy
Oh, I
burdens.
love that.
You'll love it.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm excited to hear about it. But it was like it was just that, like, that event. That's when I realized the room changes lives.
Hmm.
Right? Like, life is different because you were there. Right? Like, your life changes. That's it. Right? And at any conference I've been to, I like some more than others, but my life changed. Everyone, that door closes between the people in there, between the speakers, the environment, right? Like, the thoughts, the conversations, it's different, and it changes people. So it's like, we wanted to no longer, I wanted to speak at conferences to hopefully be part of that impact. We wanted to have them. So we had a room, a place where we called it, originally it was just so people could come. And then we called it our community. And now we call it our family, right? Because the Unleash You now, it's like, we're family. Literally, people go through hard times. People from Unleash You now are traveling during the pandemic. People are traveling to support people because their life went upside down because something happened. We have people ordering stuff from businesses across the country to support people that are in the community because they know during the shutdown it became hard, right? Like, and then when you realize you're part of that community, like, you had a piece of that. Oh, it's like, phew, your heart beats at a different level. Like,
Yeah.
your vibration is different, your energy is different.
Yeah,
Uh,
giving back to community and connecting with others is the essence of life. It's the essence of life. When it's all about me, um, I started this connection show with this pandemic hitting, and because I felt my God saying, people are desperate for connection right now. And at first, it's so funny because of what you said earlier about not naming it your name. At first, when I just started doing my very first podcast, I said live with Jill Reynolds. And I'm like, oh, is this the Jill Reynolds show? And I was like, no, this is not Jill Reynolds show. This is the connection show. It's all about connecting. And then I started the podcast interviewing people like yourself. And then I felt, well, what about the audience? The audience is left out there listening to these podcasts, but they're not connecting. And I said, okay, then I'm going to start Zoom connection gathering tribes for the audience so that they can come on Wednesday nights and they can have a platform to connect. And what would it be like if the leaders who just shared on my podcast, not every Wednesday, but when they can, come on to the connection show and let this audience who just met you say, wow, Michael, I listened to your podcast like 2 months ago. You were amazing. I'm so glad. And you know what? We took it a step further 2 weeks ago, Michael. You would have loved it. It was like every week we were doing these connection Zoom gatherings. At the beginning, we'd spend 10 minutes of the Zoom connection going around saying our name, where we're from, and what we do. And one night at the end, when we were transitioning of sharing what our values were in life and blah, 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 and people were sharing about how they wanted to make their value mission statement. And I was asking the participants to share with the audience, with your expertise, share why you would choose that. And two of the participants on were like either professional therapists or coaches. And this one woman comes on who worked in a manufacturing or something plant as a manager. And she said, I don't feel qualified to share like what my statement would be because like I'm a nobody. And we all stood back and said, wow, you are a somebody. And we shared some stories. So at the end, she felt connected. I made a decision, and I shouldn't say I made a decision. I want to get out of the way because I ask my higher power, who I choose to call God, for direction on that. So the next week, as people were jumping on, I says, we need to reintroduce ourselves. When you jump on the show, just say your first name only and where are you from. I could care less what you do. I can care less what your title is, what the business name is, or what you bring to society. What I care about is you as a human being and that you're here and that we would love to connect. And we transitioned. No longer. And there's a company out there, I'll just give them a quick kudo because they're amazing. Miles Adcox owns Milestones and on-site workshops in Nashville, Tennessee. Amazing man. He's on the Dr. Phil show at least once a month, and he's got an amazing center in outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And I was blessed to be able to go to his Daring Way, Brene Brown Daring Way workshop for a week. And it was amazing because at this workshop, that's their motto. When you arrive, You can't tell anyone there the whole week you're there who you are except your first name and where you're from. You're not allowed to give your last name. You're not allowed to say what you do for a living. On the last night around the bonfire, if you so choose, you can then tell participants what you do for a living, and exchange phone numbers if you want. But the whole time you're there doing your own personal stuff, nobody's supposed to identify with what they do in business, and I love it.
Nice.
Get out of
That's
the
awesome.
get out of the way with these titles,
Mm-hmm.
because we really segregate people.
Mm-hmm.
If people out there who are in support of Black Lives Matter really want lives to matter, quit worrying about titles. Like, get
Mm.
out of the way and start looking at them and listening to them and hearing people and connecting with them, because everyone's story is important.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's story is
Everyone's
important.
story matters. Everyone
Yeah.
matters. All right.
So with that, with Unleash now, you're starting back up to look at some more conference schedules and some
Mm-hmm.
speakers and stuff. And I have to give you kudos, because do not fear. You will fill them. If you plan them, they will come, as they say in Field of Dreams. I had to cancel at least 6 retreats this year, but I refused to cancel my Montana retreat. We changed the date, and it is September 15th through the 20th, and we are in outside of Billings, Montana, on a 500-acre horse ranch. And I know your mom has a horse ranch too, so you can
Dang
relate
right.
to this. And she's got 3 arenas, and she Abby Moreland is the owner, and she does Og Mandino's Habit Finder. So everyone that gets to come, she sends them the Habit Finder to find out what habits are out of balance in your life. And she spends an hour with the attendees before they arrive, so that when they arrive, she matches up the horses with them, because horses are intuitive. And
Mm-hmm.
she'll match them up to see what habits in your life are out of balance, so that the horse can help to empower you with leadership skills to get your habits in balance. So it's a
Love
great week. We have 5 attendees registered, and we have 2 more beds left. Unfortunately, the room that has the beds left is 2 women, so we need women in that room. However, if one man wants to come, they can share a room with my husband, and I'll share a room with the ladies.
it.
But yeah, it's amazing. And so, I'm one of those people. I'm not going in it, and I don't discount Corona, so don't anyone that's listening think I don't. But I also believe in moving forward without fear, and I'm going to live my life without fear, and I'm going to move forward. And so we have the retreat, and as of yesterday, Michael, I made a decision. I put on my calendar February, what was the date? I'm going blank on my date. I think 22nd to 28th. I have booked Aruba. We are going to a
Yeah.
amazing villa in Aruba. It has each villa, there's 3 side-by-side villas, Michael. Each villa has 6 bedrooms, 6 baths. Each bedroom have 2 queen beds, so 2 to a room, or as a couple, you can push them together as a king bed. Each of the villas are side by side with their own private swimming pools, and 3 steps down to a private beach like this. Nobody else is there but us. So if we book 18 of rooms, that's 18 villas, that's 20, whatever, I don't know, I'm so bad with math, 18 times 18. Or we can just do 1 villa or 2 villas. And so even with the social distancing fears, like, let's go to Aruba. It's our own villa. It's just us. And I plan it as a personal concierge service. I pick you up at the airport, I drop you off. If you say you want to go scuba diving, I take you scuba diving. You want to snorkel, we'll snorkel. So I create that atmosphere for you. So so I share that with you, because move forward, plan your conferences. People will show up. People, there's people that really desperately want connection, and there's all different ways we can connect at conferences. You can still do every other row, 6 seats over, wear your mask. I mean, you can do them. There,
Right.
go forward. Go forward.
Right. Go forward. We had to push the conference a little bit, just because Baltimore, they wouldn't work with us about the amount of people in the room. literally they said 25. We have 25 speakers, most conferences. So it would only be the speakers. They'd be speaking to an empty room. So
Well,
we had to push that for,
good news. I got good news for you.
wow.
My neighbor is the general manager of King's Palace in Branson, Missouri. And I know your conferences are big, but it's a 1,600 seat auditorium. I can get it. I can get it for you tomorrow, and I can plan the event for you in Branson, Missouri. And what's nice about Branson is we're in the middle of the we're central. We are an 8-hour drive from Chicago, 7 hours from Dallas, 8 hours from Nashville, 4 hours from St. Louis, 12 hours from Denver. So if people still do not want to fly a lot and want to drive, you can get to Branson. We've been open for 8 weeks with tourism. You know, everything's been open. We have not had outbreaks, and it's amazing. So I know it's only 1,600 seats, but 1,600 is better than zero.
That's great.
You know, and even if we social distance and make it 800 or 500, we can still move forward, and I can help you set that whole thing up.
We got to talk.
Yep. So with that, I'm going to close with 2 questions. If someone told you today you had to delete every app on your cell phone but could only keep 2, what's your 2 must apps?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to do, oh man. All right. So iTunes.
Okay.
Because I can get my podcasts, my music and video all through it. So I'll keep iTunes because I'm a big podcast person because I'm a nerd. I love learning. And the second one is going to be, I have to stay in contact with my community, man. They mean too much to me. So I'll say something simple like Facebook.
Okay.
That would be my 2 apps.
Awesome. And you shared a lot. So if we can what is one fun fact about you?
My butt is lopsided. I got bit by a German Shepherd, and it took half my butt cheek out. So it's hard to sit on the toilet seat. Sometimes I got to angle myself right.
What you got to do is put your wallet on that side that's real thick.
They're right.
Yeah, put the wallet over there. Well, it's kind of my body is off like that too, but it was a car accident, and when they put my right hip in, my right hip was so shattered they had to put it in on an angle like this. So this side of my body is like this. So I finally found, praise God, I found a orthopedic who said, you know what? Because you've been like this for close to 9 years now, and it's screwing up my whole spine and stuff, he said, now it's caused your left hip to degenerate. So if we do a replacement on your left hip and we put it this way, we'll balance you out and maybe get you out of pain. So I'm hoping that'll happen because I can't walk more than 2 blocks or stand for more than 5 to 10 minutes. So if you ever want me as a speaker at your conference, you got to give me a chair because I can't stand for more than 10 minutes.
Not a problem. That's not a problem.
Anyway, so audience, I would love for you to see Michael's bio. It's on the screen, and this will be on the YouTube channel so that you'll be able to contact him and know how to reach out to him for his conferences and get to know him. And I'm just amazed to get to know you myself. And I look forward to our connections. I do not believe in the universe of millions that we met by accident. It was a divine purpose that you and I've met. So I know we will be part of each other's family for eternity. So thank you so much. And audience, again, I'm just going to reiterate, if you're interested in being a guest on my show, please go to braveheartworkshops.com and fill out the contact sheet, which will give you an opportunity to send me your email so I can reach out to schedule you. And I'm hoping that you'll join us on Wednesday night on the Connection Zoom. Michael, if you're ever free on a Wednesday night, it's East Coast, 8 o'clock till 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. So nice. I'd love for you to join us. Whatever you can just pop in, it would be amazing. So thanks so much for connecting with us, everyone, and we hope to see you Wednesday evenings. Have a wonderful day. Signing off from The Connection Show. Thanks for joining us on The Connection Show. Let's connect now. We can dream together to renew, restore, and reconnect with wellness in our life and community. To enhance connection, join us in the Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe on Wednesday evenings. The Zoom Connection Gathering Tribe is an easy and practical way for everyone to meet up, gather, and feel welcomed and accepted. To join us, go to braveheartworkshops.com. Then click on the podcast tab and the Zoom Connection Tribe tab. On that page, go to the Facebook page called the Connection Show Gathering Tribe and register to join our Facebook group. We post secure passwords each week in the group so you can log in safely. We meet on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Mountain, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for 1.5 hours with great topics, laughter, and connection. See you on Wednesday evenings. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.